Chapter 6. I'm not sure how I got back to Lavender House. As soon as I'd regained my senses, I fled the tower, away from Cal, away from the brand he seared into my back. Shifter. The word rings in my head, echoing off the curves of my skull until it swallows every other thought. Before the war, shifters were one of the many creatures drawn to Maltaire by the darkness of the wheel's power. And like the rest, demons and imps and goblins and more, shifters are bloodthirsty monsters. But shifters are more than just vicious. They're manipulative and cunning. They can turn themselves into whatever form they wish. Beasts with the head of a wolf and body of a griffin. Beautiful maidens who lure their victims in and slit their throats. I read one story in which a shifter bargained with a mortal. A year of the human service in exchange for a pair of wings. The human was unaware that a shifter can only change its own body. And so, after the year was up, the shifter fashioned a pair of wings out of wax and fixed them to the human's shoulders. Overjoyed, the mortal leapt off the nearest cliff. He soared over the waves of the Carthagean Sea, but the wings soon melted in the heat of the sun, sending the unwitting mortal to crash into the water and drown. I cannot be a shifter. If the prisoner spoke true, why wasn't I killed like all the other shifters I'd read about? Destroyed before they could wreak havoc on the realm. Why did the Briar King let me exhale a single breath once he knew of my existence? The questions rend me to ribbons, corrupt my dreams when I stumble into spurts of sleep. And the swirling images, fur sprouts from my skin, and my teeth lengthen into fangs. I try to run, but my legs are fins or spindly spider legs, and I cannot move, only scream, and something slams into my shoulder, hard enough to throw me halfway off the bed. Get up, you useless creature! I catch myself before I fall to the floor, and then wince against the white blur of the morning. A shadow looms over me. How am I supposed to treat my patrons without ground peacock feathers? A petal pink curl dangles in front of my face. Rose. She tosses a broken vial at my fingertips, and I am barely able to jerk away before the shards lodge in my skin. I groan, hefting myself upright. That damn sack. In my flight from the Black Tower, my clumsy hands had dropped it more than once. I'm surprised only this one vial was smashed. I'll get another. I rub the sleep from my eyes. Oh no, you won't. Rose taps her slipper, and the bells tune onto the toes jingle. I've already sent a servant, but it will come out of your wages, Mistress Lavender said. I doubt that, but I'm too groggy to argue. That's fine. Get out. Someone woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Glass crunches under her heel. Someone was dragged off the wrong side of the bed. It's your own fault if you're lazy. I've been up for ages. Already had 3 patrons. And how's your blood looking? It's a low jab, but an effective one. Twin splotches like gilded dandelions erupt on Rose's cheeks. Finding any silver specks? My blood looks far better than yours, she sneers. I'd jump off the crimson cliffs if I'd green in my veins. Do everyone a favour. Careful, Rose. I rest my skin on my knees and grin. You never know what the dark rays might do. Poor thing, your teeth are still a bit grey around the edges. She snaps her lips closed and whirls, the bells on her toes tinkling. Speaking of patrons, she calls over her shoulder, yours have been waiting for the past half hour. The door slams behind her, and I bark out a litany of curses, rushing to pick out a fresh dress. The black wax seal of Delphine's schedule, still waiting to be broken, glares at me from the door. A servant must have slipped it under the door on their rounds to wake the Graces, but I'd been sleeping too deeply to hear their knock. Dragon's teeth. Mistress Lavender hates for patrons to wait. It makes them more likely to bring their businesses to another house and lower our standings. And even if I am the dark race, the only one in the realm, she insists I adhere to the same standard of service as the others. I rake a comb through my lank, oily hair and splash some water on my face. The reflection in my spotted mirror isn't inspiring. But I dragged myself downstairs anyway, stuffing a breakfast roll in my mouth and ripping open my schedule before heading to the lair. Alyce, really? Mistress Lavender chides, herding me through the kitchen. The ball is tonight. The house cannot afford any mistakes. I mutter a few apologies while she continues to rant about duty and service and Lavender House's rank. Then I scuttle out the door. For the rest of the day, I entertain patrons. I whip up elixirs to lead in nimble feet, to tarnish lustrous skin and snub graceful noses, to replace a pleasant singing voice or musical laugh with the squawk of a crow. It doesn't matter if the victims have already employed the service of a grace. My magic is stronger, a fact we learned when it was decided that I was to open my own practice, and the Grace Council was testing the limits of my power against the Graces. A Grace can attempt to cover the effects of my elixirs, but the darkness always bleeds through. The ill effects of my magic fade eventually, but they cannot be completely undone, not even by the healing graces. Much as I abhor being the dark grace, my blood's power to thwart the graces always gives me a rush of victory. It's not until evening that I'm finally stoppering my last vial. The patron is already dressed in his finery for the ball and is quick to depart. My bones ache, fingertips sore from where I've slashed myself over a dozen times already. It's all I can do to feed Callow and haul myself back to the house, desperate for a bowl of whatever cook is waiting in the kitchen. The smell has been making my mouth water for hours. Dragon's teeth, but you look a fright. My mood only further sours as Rose sweeps into view. She looks like an elaborately decorated dessert in her cascade of silk skirts and pearl-studded ringlets. She whips a matching fan out of her reticule and waves it under her nose with distaste. And what have you been cooking up? Toad piss. I shake my skirts in the hopes that the dirt and soot will spoil her gown. I'll be sure to add some to your bottles of scent. Rose glares and steps away from me. Marigold flounces in behind her, dressed in frills of daffodil silk. Heavy gold lims her eyes. Grace powder sparkles on her brown shoulders. You aren't ready. She feigns shock, an ivory-gloved hand at her breast, then deals a conspiratorial smirk to Rose. I had patrons. I divide a look between them, confused. Why didn't you? This close to the ball, they should have been swamped. Oh, we've been finished for simply hours. Rose twirls her fan. Delphine arranged it, a courtesy so that we could prepare for the ball. I was granted no such courtesy. My last patron just left. Really? A tiny crease digs between Rose's brows. One of the peach-colored ostrich plumes on her fan brushes against her cheekbones. An oversight, I'm sure. Marigold titters. It's a shame you won't be ready. A bell chimes from the drawing room, announcing the arrival of the carriage. Marigold links arms with Rose, who bestows an infuriating wink upon me. Good night, Alyce. We'll tell Mistress Lavender you've decided to stay home. My blood grows so hot, I think my skin might be glowing green as her bustles round the corner toward the front door. This is Rose's doing. She probably bribed Delphine to shift my appointments until the last possible moment. It wouldn't have taken much coin. Every servant in this wretched house hates me. It would be useless to involve Mistress Lavender. I can't prove anything, and I'll never be ready in time. I haven't even thought of what to wear. Part of me wants to go as I am now, just to spite them all. Show up on the palace doorstep in my sweat-stained, reeking gown with remnants of enhancements still caked under my fingernails and smudged on my face. A picture of the deranged creature they all think I am. See if they have the gall to turn me away. But they would turn me away, and Rose would revel in it. I'd never live it down. And so I turn my attention to the trays of leftover tarts from today's grace sessions. I fill a plate, blueberry, raspberry, cardamom, piling them as high as I can, and head up to my attic room. I didn't want to go to the ball anyway, I remind myself. Wouldn't have even thought to go if Rose hadn't rankled me. But now, there's a heap of fabric on my bed that doesn't belong there. My mouth freezes around a bite of creamy filling. I swallow quickly, setting the plate down on the top of a side table. Folded neatly on the twisted coverlet of my bed is the most beautiful dress I've ever seen. It's onyx silk, overlaid with a sheer gossamer fabric that shines like spun moonlight. Beads of jet dance in intricate patterns down the bodice. The sleeves are the same silvery fabric as the skirt, and cut to fall next to the hem, like long, delicate wings. Next to the gown is a mask, one large enough to cover the wearer's entire face. Black, silver-dusted ostrich plumes protrude from the forehead, and there is a stiff veil of black and gold netting gathered around the eye holes, thick enough that it will obscure the midnight color of my gaze. Beneath the mask is a note. No one need to know. L. It takes several attempts to convince a servant to both help me into the gown and flag down a carriage to take me to the palace. Her name is Lauren, I think, and I can tell by her puckered lips and pinched brow that she doesn't think I should be going. But after some convincing, her own fear of the dark race wins out, and she finally begins unlacing my work dress. The new gown fits like a glove. Laurel must have spent her own coin to have it made for me. It's the nicest gift I've ever received. The only gift, actually. An unfamiliar surge of emotion swells beneath my breastbone as Lauren does up the fastenings at the back of the bodice. Perhaps Laurel is fonder of me than I thought. Lauren pins up my hair in a fashion she slyly comments will flatter me, which I take to mean it will hide the oil and dirt I didn't have time to wash out. Because the style isn't particularly flattering, just tightly braided and coiled at the crown of my head, she adds a healthy dusting of grace powder as well. It itches where it sticks to my chest and neck. By the time she's finished, the carriage is already waiting. Lauren fastens the mask to my face, then helps me navigate the stairs in my tissue-thin skirts, pausing at the front door. She hesitates, then opens up a closet and pulls out a grace cloak. One of roses that she hardly ever wears. Its gold taffeta trimmed with mink. Gems bright as petrified sunlight are studded down the back, patterned in the grey sigil of a blooming briar rose, wreathed in laurel leaves. I argue with her at first. The powder is one thing, but to wear the sigil feels too close to flouting Grace laws. But Lauren refuses to budge. If it's the Graces invited to the ball, she insists firmly, you should go as Grace. She steps away, revealing my reflection in the foyer's full-length mirror. I don't recognize the figure standing before me. My green-veined skin is completely hidden by the black elbow-length gloves and the lace of the neckline of my bodice. Lauren even tied a thick ribbon strung with a pearl pendant to disguise the nest of veins at my throat, and the mask covers everything else, even the black of my eyes. If I tilt my head in just the right way, I could swear they burn gold. Dressed like this, I could be anyone, a real Grace. As much as I despise the Grace's spoiled, vapid ways, this new identity locks onto my skin like armor. I stand straighter, shoulders back and chin high, as I've seen Rose do countless times. Lauren adjusts the cloak, fluffs my skirts one last time, and then I glide out into the night.